Hello and welcome. Today's objective is to generate equivalent forms of fractions and decimals. And so right here, generate would mean to come up with or to develop. Okay, equivalent forms means give me a fraction that's equivalent to a decimal or a decimal that's equivalent to the fraction. In your journal, please write this down. Number 1, generate equivalent forms of fractions and decimals. Oh, your title would be Video Notes, Fractions and Decimals. Okay. Number 2, your guiding question is what are the denominators that will allow for an equivalent fraction out of 100? Write this down. You'll need to pause your video and write this, and then at the end of the video we will come back and answer it. Okay, go ahead and put it at the bottom of the papers here, so we will definitely come back to it. Okay, number 3 is the introduction problem. Name 3 fractions that are equivalent to 1/2. Okay, tell me a fraction. I'll give you one of them. I will say maybe 5/10 is equivalent to 1/2. Okay, you can name 2 more. Okay, it's important to be able to name equivalent fractions because we know that I can multiply the numerator and denominator by the same thing and I can get an equivalent fraction. So 2 times 5 is 10, 1 times 5 is 5. If I can multiply them both by the same thing, then it is equivalent. Okay, you'll want to write this down. Number 4, rules. To change a fraction to a decimal generates an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 10 or 100. I will show you what this means. But pause your video and write this down. To change a fraction to a decimal generates an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 10 or 100. And then you just read it with place value. Okay, number 5 is practice. This is a problem that we're going to work together. Joey is measuring the rainfall in a rain gauge. He measured 7/20ths of an inch. So what is this measurement as a decimal? So we just write down 7/20ths. Now, my decimals, my place value, deals with tenths and hundredths. So what I can do right here is make this an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. So 20 times 5 is 100. 7 times 5 is 35. 35 100ths is 0.35. That's all there is to it. Okay. Next, Mr. Sanders just bought 4/5 of an acre. What is this amount as a decimal? So 4/5, that one can go over to tenths, or I could write it as 4/5 out of 100ths. It could go either way. 5 times 2 is 10, so then I would do 4 times 2. Or I could do 5 times 20 is 100, and 4 times 20 would be something. Make sure you solve this on your paper. Okay. Number 7, Rebecca works 5 1/4 hours on Saturday. What is this amount written as a decimal? Now remember, it's a mixed number. So if I have 5 1/4, my decimal is going to be 5 point something. So you want to take your 1/4 and rewrite it as a fraction with a denominator of 100. How do I get from 4 to 100? And then remember, whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. Pause your video and solve this. Number 8. Now, this works when your denominator is a factor of 100, and we'll come back to those. But what happens when your denominator doesn't go into 100? When you have like 3/8. 8 does not go into 100. There's nothing here, no whole number that I can multiply by to get from 8 to 100. So I want you to make a prediction. I want a complete sentence about what you think happens when the denominator is not a factor of 100. Okay, number 9. What questions do you still have? If you don't have questions, what is the most difficult part of this topic? Or what do you think students may struggle with most? Even if you don't struggle with any of it, what may be the most difficult part for other students? Okay. Number 10, tell me how well you understand. A 5 means I know it and I could teach someone else, all the way down to a number 1 that says I'm completely confused and I could not change a fraction to a decimal. Just give me a number here for number 10. Okay, we go back to our guiding question. What are all the denominators that will allow